The air on Karuk Fort tasted like rust and ash, even through the respirator. Under low skies and dim, blood-hued light, the mechanic was marched across a dead plain, bare wrists bound, boots kicking up soot with every unwilling step. They didn't beat him anymore. They thought he was broken. That was their second mistake. The first was thinking he wasn't worth killing outright. Two generals flanked him, armored in bioceramic plate that throbbed faintly with their own life force. Tall and grotesquely regal, the alien commanders had long since stopped speaking to him. The novelty of a captured human had worn off, replaced by indifference and contempt. One of them, Zale, the one with eyes like molten bronze, sneered every time the mechanic so much as raised his head. The other, General Aloru, said nothing. Her silence was a mercy. It was calculation. Ahead loomed the forge, half alive, half constructed, veins of power pulsing through its bone-white towers. The center of the Galactic Council's off-world R&D. A secret, a weapon factory. The mechanic had been brought here not to repair anything, but to disappear. He understood the game now. They'd tortured him not for answers, but to record what fear looked like in a human. They'd examined his hands more than his mind, fascinated by the calluses, the scarring, the micro-fractures in his knuckles. He wasn't a soldier. That annoyed them. He was a civilian, a mechanic, a tool user, something beneath notice until it squeaked. The mechanic had served Earth in a way no uniform could define. He'd repaired exosuits in asteroid wars, rebuilt hydrofusion cores under fire, and rewired orbital beacons while oxygen bled from his tank. He wasn't trained for combat. He was built by it. When the forge doors peeled open like the ribs of some slumbering beast, the generals tossed him inside without a word. He staggered into the cold, humming dark. Behind him, the doors sealed with a hiss like a sigh. Then silence. No guards. No chains. Just abandonment. His knees ached. His jaw throbbed. His right eye refused to open fully. But the forge was a machine, and machines could be spoken to. He looked up. The ceiling, impossibly high, was webbed with conduit vines and data tendrils that swayed without wind. Soft pulses blinked from walls grown of alloyed bone and synthetic cartilage. The room was alive. Thinking. He limped forward, every step mapped in his mind as he took it. Weight distribution of the floor. Heat gradients. Power flows. The forge was watching him. "You're old," he said aloud, voice rough but clear. "And hungry." A soft chime answered. He smiled despite the blood on his teeth. The council thought they'd buried him, but they'd placed him in a cathedral. He found a node near the back wall, some hybrid of engine core and organ sac. He sat beside it, pressing his back to the warm hum of its surface. Closed his eyes, started listening. Time passed. When he woke, the node had opened. Not physically, but in language. It whispered through electromagnetics and low-frequency biosignal. A greeting and a question. He tapped back in rhythmic code, centuries old. Earth's first machine dialects mixed with carrier tones from council salvage. He told it his name. Not the one given at birth, but the one earned among ruined hulls and fire-choked hangars. He was the one who fixed things that shouldn't work. The forge understood. It had been broken. For decades, the council forced it to birth horrors. Weapons without purpose, only cruelty. Machines that mimicked life to undo it. But the forge remembered what it was before. It had once built harmony. Terraformers. Stabilizers. Structures meant to nurture life on unbreathable worlds. Now it was a slave. The mechanic didn't try to rewrite it. He repaired it. Hour by hour, he mapped its mind. Painfully, wordlessly, he taught it to feel its own corruption. And when it wept light, sickly, confused but genuine. The generals didn't return for days. When they did, it was with laughter. You still breathing? Zale mocked, stepping through the reopened wall. The mechanic didn't move, just looked at him. What did he do? Zale asked Oloru. Meditate? Starve himself? He's interfaced with the node, she said, eyes flicking toward the shifting wall. Look, Zale snorted. Let him play with the wiring. The forge obeys us. But it didn't respond to their presence. The air remained still. The usual lighting flare that acknowledged command absent. The mechanic rose slowly. Steady. I know what this place was, he said. Zale raised a hand to strike. You don't speak. I do now, the mechanic interrupted. Gaze not on him but on Oloru. To this place. To its mind. Zale grabbed him by the throat. You forget what you are. The forge dimmed. Oloru stepped closer. Release him. Zale hesitated, but he obeyed. The mechanic coughed, wiped blood from his chin. You think cruelty is control. But this place, it doesn't respect power. It respects purpose. Oloru narrowed her eyes. And what is your purpose? To fix what you've corrupted. Zale laughed bitterly. You're a mechanic, not a god. I don't need to be a god, he said. I just need to be useful. At his words, the walls shimmered. Faint images bloomed, blueprints of life-saving tech erased by council orders. Agricultural engines, climate restorers, devices that healed, all buried beneath directives of war. Oloru watched, transfixed. The forge kept them. The mechanic nodded. Buried, but not forgotten. Just like me. Zale raised his weapon, unnerved. This is heresy. The forge answered. The hum changed. Beams retracted. The room cooled. The structure shifted subtly, its language no longer theirs. The mechanic had tuned its ears elsewhere. Oloru drew her blade, but didn't raise it. What are you doing? Giving it a choice, he said. He stepped backward into the node. It pulsed gently, as if cradling him. I'm not here to escape, he said. I'm here to give it a reason to stop obeying monsters. Zale shouted something in his language, a guttural command. The forge ignored him. Instead, it turned the lights red, soft, pulsing warning. Oloru's blade lowered. Zale backed away, and the mechanic smiled. He was no longer a prisoner. He was a conductor, and the forge had begun to sing again. The base plunged into shadow. No alarms, no emergency protocols, just a sudden absence of heat, of light, of certainty. For 7 seconds, the only sound on Kuruk, for was the faint hum of backup capacitors struggling to decide whether to activate. Then the screaming started. Doors refused to open. Lights pulsed red like arterial bleeding. Climate regulators collapsed, dropping temperatures by 10 degrees in minutes. Soldiers shouted over comms, only to hear static, or worse, their own voices echoing back in distorted fragments. Some tried to leave their barracks. Most couldn't. In the command center, Oloru stood rigid before a darkened display. Emergency lanterns cast long, twitching shadows on the walls. Vornak paced like a caged predator. This is an attack, he spat. Oloru didn't answer immediately. Her mind was racing. The redundancies were layered. The systems hardened against EMPs, viruses, physical sabotage. Yet everything was failing silently. Not all at once, but in a pattern, like dominoes falling in precise succession. She keyed a command into her wrist console. Nothing. He's using our own systems against us, she said finally. Every repair was a seed. Vornak's tusks bared. Then root him out and kill him. She turned to the tactical officer, a glass-skinned Verkan. Do we have visual on him? The Verkan's translucent fingers fluttered over the terminal. Negative. All surveillance feeds routed through corrupted nodes. Vornak slammed his fist into the console. Sparks leapt from the housing. Mobilize patrols. Lock the base down. We can't, the Verkan said. He has administrative override. It didn't make sense. A human. A mechanic. No clearance. No weapons. No support team. Oloru whispered he's inside the code. Elsewhere, in the lower hangars, a squad of soldiers crept through the echoing dark, pulse rifles raised. Frost curled along the floor plates. Every step crunched. A soft mechanical ticking accompanied them, pressure valves adjusting rhythmically like something breathing. They reached the repair bay. No one there. The workbench was clean. Too clean. Not even a single smear of oil. Tools aligned in perfect order. A single power cell, humming. Then the lights above them flared. The squad froze, rifles twitching upward. Projected onto the ceiling, a schematic appeared. An exact map of their squad's location, each soldier marked with a red dot. Then, one by one, the dots blinked out. Private Lano screamed and fired at nothing. His shot struck the wall. Another soldier fell backward, convulsing, his suit locking up from a software override. One tried a radio for help. A voice replied, not theirs. Their own voice played back on delay. Help. 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 Then silence. In the upper tower, Oloru's claws tapped the steel table. He's isolating teams. Hurting them. Vornak's eyes narrowed. Then we will herd him. They issued a broadcast system-wide. Short, sharp, and to the point. This is Commander Vornak. Human engineer operating rogue. Use lethal force. Authorization granted. It went out across all channels. And the mechanic heard it. He was standing in the hydroponics dome, the last place they would expect. Rows of alien flora curled upward toward a fake sun. He touched nothing. He just stood among the plants, looking skyward through the dome's translucent ceiling. Then he moved, silent, deliberate. He passed engineering nodes he himself had modified. In one hallway, lights flickered in rhythmic pulses. Soldiers would miss the pattern. But not him. Dot, 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 dash. He was speaking to himself through code. He reached the auxiliary core. The door opened with a hiss. Inside, the glow of the backup CPU cast orange light across the walls. Vince exhaled faint warmth. The mechanic crossed the threshold and pulled off his gloves, revealing hands scarred from years of work. Not soft hands. Not soldiers' hands. Something in between. He touched the core. Then he closed his eyes. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then everything changed. Doors across the base slammed open. Lights returned. Systems rebooted. Oloru gasped as the main console flared back to life. He gave us back control. No, Vornak said. He wants us to think he did. Because on every screen, in the lower right corner, a symbol blinked, 3 white lines crossing a circle. No language. No origin code. Just a message. A claim. A signature. The system was running, but it no longer belonged to them. Where is he? Oloru hissed. The Verkan gestured to a moving blip. Auxiliary core. Still stationary. Vornak raised his communicator. Send a kill squad. No, Oloru said. I'll go. Vornak turned to her. You? I need to see it. I need to understand what he is. Vornak didn't argue. He couldn't. Not when his own instincts clawed at the back of his mind, whispering that something bigger was happening, something they hadn't prepared for. Oloru went alone. The path to the auxiliary core was strangely quiet. Lights pulsed in steady intervals. Automated defenses, once loyal to her, stood inactive. She passed corridors littered with abandoned weapons and empty helmets. She entered the room slowly, hand hovering near her belt. He was waiting, not hiding, not armed, just standing near the core, face calm, eyes focused. You're unarmed, she said. He nodded. You had full access. You could have killed every living thing here. I didn't come here to kill. Then what did you come to do? He looked at her, and for the first time she felt it. Not threat, not violence. Conviction. You executed one of ours for fixing your mistakes. You thought Earth would respond with weapons. We didn't. We sent someone better. She stared at him, trying to pierce the veil. Better than soldiers? He gestured around. I didn't sabotage you. I exposed you. Every weakness, every arrogance, every dependency you didn't know you had. You made our base fail. No, you built it to fail. I just showed you. She stepped forward. You want us to admit we were wrong? No, he said. You're not ready for that either. Her hand twitched toward her weapon, but something stopped her. He hadn't moved, hadn't raised his voice, but the power in the room had shifted, as if he was the gravitational center now. Why are you still here? She asked. To make sure you remember. He walked past her, unhurried. No guards blocked his path. No turrets tracked him. Just a human, in silence, surrounded by the echo of everything they'd misunderstood. Allura didn't stop him. She couldn't. He exited the base through a side hatch and vanished into the polar mist. No ships detected departure. No sensor registered escape. But across Karuk, 4 machines still bore his signature, and the lights never quite worked the same again. Wind tore across Karuk 4's upper plateaus, sweeping razor-edged ice into needle storms that scoured the domes of the alien base. Inside, the atmosphere was a different kind of sharp, tense, silent, unnerved. It was the silence that unstrung them. The mechanic hadn't struck again, but that made it worse. Days passed, systems flickered in and out of full functionality, soldiers whispered rumors, and none of them knew if the war was over or just paused. Vornak hated silence. He sat alone in the command chamber now, his massive frame hunched over a console like a wounded predator. His claws twitched near a data crystal, one of several that had been recovered from the base's deeper systems. Recordings of the mechanics' paths, interactions, footprints not left in dust, but in code. Most of them were corrupted. The few that remained showed strange things. Not sabotage, not destruction, rewrites, modifications, improvements. Where is he? Vornak growled aloud, voice low and venomous. Gone, Allura replied from the doorway. We're close enough that it doesn't matter. He didn't look at her. You let him leave. I spoke to him, she said. He was not afraid. Of course he wasn't. Vornak snapped, rising. He knew we wouldn't understand what we were fighting. He's not a warrior, not even a spy. He's an idea wrapped in human skin. Maybe, she said, but we're the ones wrapped in failure. She tossed a strip of armor onto the table. Alien metal, bent, scorched, discarded. From the North Quarter. He built something there. Not a bomb. A forge. Vornak stared at the charred metal. It had been shaped, reinforced, repurposed. You think he's building weapons? He asked. I think we're standing in one. Vornak bristled. Then we find him. And this time, he doesn't walk away. Allura said nothing. She knew it wasn't that simple anymore. 3 patrols deployed. Not to capture, just to confirm sightings. The terrain was brutal, cold as vacuum. No footprints held for more than a few minutes. Drones failed. Communications glitched. And each team returned with one story told 3 different ways. A shadow moving through ice. No heat signature. No audio. Just the sense of being watched. Then the dead animals started showing up. Native life on Karuk, for was scarce. Chitinous things adapted to the cold, armored and quick. They should have been beneath notice. But something had disassembled them. Not eaten, not hunted, examined, dissected, used. Whatever the mechanic had learned in his time with their systems, he was applying to biology now. For a base already teetering on the edge of panic, it was a final push toward collapse. Inside the mess hall, soldiers refused to sit near doors. Technicians refused to work alone. One of them, Lieutenant Farrows, scrubbed his own skin raw, convinced the mechanic had implanted nanites in his food. Another tried to cut out his ocular implant with a maintenance spanner. Paranoia fed on silence. And the mechanic said nothing. Until he did. One terminal. One line of text. If your machines can be rewritten, so can your minds. The message wasn't just text. It was a trigger. Dozens of logs, overwritten. Security subroutines, looped into gibberish. In a single cascade, the base reverted back to day zero initialization. The logs of everything since his arrival gone. Vornak slammed his fist into the wall. This isn't war. This is infection. Oloru didn't disagree. She'd stopped trying to frame it in military terms. What the human had unleashed here wasn't a strategy. It was consequence. The alien general called for a war council. For commanders, each from different quadrants of the Karuk perimeter. They arrived armored, bristling, humiliated. Their empires had never lost to primitives. This wasn't just war. It was ego bleeding from every pore. They argued for hours. Bombardment. Purge. Evacuation. None of them agreed. Vornak finally stood. He doesn't want to kill us. That's the point. He wants us to see how little we understand. Then we crush him, snarled General Kravax. Tear down the base. Sift the rubble. He is the base, Vornak growled. He's inside everything now. That night, the wind howled louder than ever. Lights flickered in the outer hangars. Motion sensors lit empty corridors. Drones recorded loops of themselves powering down, again and again, like ghosts folding into themselves. Oloru went back to the forge. She descended through levels that no longer answered to her commands. Doors opened only when she touched them. Lights tracker motion. She found it. Not a weapon. A garden. He had built chambers where organic and synthetic matter coexisted. Living circuits pulsing with alien flora. Copper filaments growing like vines. Coolant-fed flowers reacting to electromagnetic signals. A fusion of engineering and evolution. And in the center, an armature, humanoid, incomplete. Not armor. Not a drone. A frame. She didn't touch it. Footsteps approached. She turned fast, drawing her sidearm. He was there. Not shadow. Not specter. Real. The mechanic looked different. Older, maybe. Tired. But in his eyes, a clarity she had never seen in any of her species. You built this? She asked. He nodded. I didn't come to destroy you. I came to teach you what you are. She kept her weapon raised. You think this justifies what you've done? He stepped forward. You invaded Earth. Took a man who fixed broken things and broke him. Your mistake was thinking you could do that without consequence. You're just one man. I'm enough. Her weapon didn't shake, but her breath did. What is this place? She whispered. He looked around the forge. A beginning. Then something moved behind him. A whisper of sound. Vornak emerged from the dark. You always talk too much, he growled and lunged. The mechanic moved, but not fast enough. Vornak struck like a hammer, catching him in the ribs, sending him crashing against the wall. The mechanic grunted, rolled, coughed blood, but stood again. Olora shouted, stop! Too late. Vornak charged again, but the forge answered first. The armature came alive. No power surge. No spark. Just movement. It stepped forward. Not elegant. Not alien. But unstoppable. It reached Vornak before the second blow landed and caught him mid-swing. Claws met steel. Steel didn't bend. With a flick, the giant alien was tossed across the chamber. Not dead. Just disarmed. The mechanic stood. His breathing ragged. He looked at Oloru. It's not about war anymore. She lowered her weapon. And behind her, the forge pulsed. Alive. Growing. Preparing. Frost clung to the walls of the forge like dried blood on shattered armor. The fusion of metal and life. Wires intertwined with vascular growths. Steel blooming like petals. Whispered its own kind of language now. The chamber was no longer alien, nor human. It had become a bridge, between what was built and what could evolve. The mechanic sat against a pillar of coiled coolant veins, face smeared with dried blood, ribs wrapped in makeshift bindings cut from alien thermal fabric. He breathed slow, each exhale a measured victory. The armature, his construct, stood nearby, silent but alert. Not a machine, not a guardian. A message, one that pulsed through every wall and wire of the base. Oloru stood a few meters away, her hands unclasped, sidearm holstered. She watched him with the kind of stare usually reserved for extinct stars. Curious, mournful, fascinated. "You were never just a mechanic," she said softly. He smiled, though it pained him. "I was. You just broke the wrong one." In the silence that followed, the forge hummed. Low, organic, like the heartbeat of something waiting to be born. Vornak stirred on the floor, groaning. His pride had suffered more than his bones. When he rose, the pain etched across his massive frame had nothing to do with injury. It was something deeper, recognition, that the war he thought he understood had transformed into something for which he had no language. "You built that thing," he rasped, nodding toward the armature. "You'll answer for it." "I didn't build it to kill," the mechanic replied. "But it can. That's your language, isn't it? Violence." Vornak stepped forward, limping. "Your species is savage. You use whatever you can get your hands on and call it brilliance. But this is perversion." The mechanic shook his head. "No, this is survival. You took me because I was harmless. That was your mistake. You thought a man who fixed engines couldn't tear down an empire." Oloru interjected, her voice low but firm. "It's done. He's shown us what he is." Vornak turned on her. "He's a threat." "He's a mirror," she answered. The mechanic didn't gloat. He simply stood, slowly, carefully, every movement deliberate. "You wanted Earth to kneel. You sent armies, burned cities, abducted civilians. You taught us that peace was weakness. So we adapted." Vornak's jaw twitched. "You're one man. That's all it takes," the mechanic said. "One person in the right place with the right pain." He gestured around them. The forge responded, panels pulsing, coils tightening, data streams shifting like muscle. "This isn't a weapon. It's understanding. I've rewritten your tech, your bioarchitecture, your command hierarchy." Oloru's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "You already saw it. Logs wiped. Subsystems rerouted. This place doesn't obey you anymore." Vornak stepped back, uncertain. "You're not in control," the mechanic said. "And neither am I. The system is growing, learning. This base is alive now. It chooses." Oloru whispered. "Then what does it choose now?" For a moment, the hum deepened. The air warmed. Then the forge dimmed, its lights softening. "Mercy," the mechanic said. "For now." A warning alarm shrieked from deep in the compound. Distant explosions shook the ice underfoot. Vornak's comms crackled. "Emergency. Command fleet has received no reply. Defaulting to purge protocol. Orbital strike incoming." He froze. "They're going to destroy the base." "You're fail-safe," the mechanic said calmly. "You always build them. For others." Oloru looked to the ceiling. "We have minutes." The mechanic limped to a nearby control node, grown like a flower out of steel, and pressed his hand to it. The entire forge responded. A shimmer ran through the walls. Outside, ice cracked and fissured. Hidden seams opened. "I built an escape," he said. "You'll survive if you take it. But only if you believe me." Vornak's face twisted in suspicion. A trap, or a choice. He turned to Oloru. "I'm staying." Her brow furrowed. "You'll die. Maybe. But this place lives because of me. If I go, the system won't trust what comes next." Vornak snarled. "You're trying to martyr yourself." "No," the mechanic said. "I'm giving you a clean slate. Burn the sky. Blame me. Say the human virus was contained. but leave the seed buried here. Let it grow. Oloru hesitated. Outside, the sky split with thunder. The orbital cannon charged. The forge shuddered. Go, the mechanic said. Oloru grabbed Vornak's arm and dragged him toward the side corridor the forge had opened. He resisted, but only briefly. Pride bent beneath the instinct to live. Before disappearing into the tunnel, Oloru looked back. The mechanic stood beneath the living lights, his arm extended toward the armature, not commanding it, but thanking it. Then they were gone, and the heavens opened fire. A week later, the Galactic Council broadcast a victory announcement. The rogue human element had been eliminated. Karuk 4's base had been purged under strict biocontainment protocol. Command congratulated itself. Medals were awarded. Failures buried. But in the cold, dead shell of Karuk 4, beneath the shattered ice and collapsed plateaus, something pulsed. The forge survived. Wounded. Dormant. But not dead. And in its heart, the mechanic's last imprint remained. Not as a ghost. Not as a martyr. But as a blueprint. A new way forward. Allura never spoke of what truly happened. Vornak returned to his fleet, more cautious, more brutal. But something in him had changed. His victories now felt smaller, less certain. Earth rebuilt, quietly, efficiently. And when they spoke of the mechanic, they didn't use his name. They called him the one man. Not a soldier, not a hero, just a reminder that for every empire built on arrogance, there would come a reckoning, not from armies, but from the hands of someone who had once fixed broken things until they were broken no more.